Today we're talking about the strange secret of Bruce Wayne for Batman the Animated Series, which originally aired 25 years ago today on October 29th, 1992. Hi friends, welcome to the show. I'm Andy Knode, and this is the show that you've been looking for. You're a big Batman fan, you grew up with Batman the Animated Series, well then please stick around because we're talking about each and every episode of Batman the Animated Series on the 25th anniversary of their original release date.
First, I would like to thank you for coming all this way.
Get to the point.
So this is an old trope with Batman. It's done in the comics. It's done in the 60s Batman show. They dabble in it with some of the movies. And this is one of the hazards of having a secret identity, is that eventually people are going to find it out. And that's what this episode is about.
I have here incontestable proof of Batman's secret identity.
So real quick, we're going to do the 45-second rundown of the episode. And let's see if we can do it. We start out on a bridge where we see Judge Vargas that's being blackmailed for something that's on this tape. Batman swoops in, saves the day, and he finds out that she had just gone to this resort, this mysterious resort, so he books a trip as Bruce Wayne and Alfred. They both go there, and when they arrive, Hugo Strange is hooking Bruce up to this device that's able to read his mind. He records on a tape that he finds out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. He contacts Joker, Two-Face, and the Penguin to have them come in, and he tries to auction off the tape. Bruce Wayne figures out what's going on, or Batman, whichever, figures out what's going on, so he goes in and he makes a new tape that he dubs over so that what they actually see is Hugo trying to take advantage of the Joker and the Penguin and the Two-Face and all that. So he dubs that in, and then at the so they're angry with him. They take him up in a plane, and then Batman comes and takes the gas line out of the plane. The plane crashes, and then when they land, then he's trying to Hugo's still trying to convince everybody that Batman is Bruce Wayne, and then Batman's standing there, and up walks Bruce Wayne, who turns out to be Dick Grayson in disguise, and he's going to go to Hollywood. Should I go to 60 seconds to give myself a break?
Maybe I'll shuck this crime-fighting gig and try Hollywood.
Like I said, this is an old trope that's used in the comics a lot, and I always found these kind of storylines kind of interesting, where Batman has a secret identity. That's why he wears a mask, so that nobody knows that he's actually Bruce Wayne. And then when the secret's exposed or threatened to be exposed, it creates a neat little story.
Some secrets are worth keeping.
And I think it's a perfect story for us to introduce Hugo Strange.
Relaxation therapy doesn't seem to be working too well on me, Dr. Strange.
And again, in this episode, I'm ashamed to say this because this just happened in the last episode, I completely forgot that Robin was in this. That when Batman is done talking to Commissioner Gordon and he climbs up the rope to the Batwing, there's Robin. I had no idea that he was in this. I think what's really fun about this episode is it was a great excuse to be able to bring in multiple villains. And this is done a few times throughout the series. But I will say it's interesting doing this show in the order that the episodes originally aired in, because there's some interesting things that come out of that. This is just the second appearance of the Penguin. Poor Penguin. He was first introduced in I've Got Batman in My Basement, which was he was really sort of the side character and kind of a wimpy villain in that, and didn't really put up much of a fight and got beat by a couple of kids. And then we see him again in this episode where he's sharing the villain screen time with the Joker and Two-Face. So really, he's sharing it with 3 other people.
Get out of my face, clown!
Which one?
It is interesting, too, as we're getting later in production order. So this is the one of the episodes on the second disc of the second volume of the DVD. So it's a little bit later in the series. In the production order, you can see the influences of Warner Brothers. And I don't just mean that when the plane lands that they are in Looney Tune country. I mean, just look at the background there. I mean, I'm expecting Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner to run through there any minute now. Or is that just me? But no, you can see the influence of Warner Brothers, that it's getting a little bit lighter in tone. There's a little bit more brighter animation. More scenes that are taking place during the day. We're seeing Robin more. He serves a purpose in this episode, but but not to the extent of it's not like Robin's Reckoning where it's about him. He's just a secondary character, much like Night of the Ninja. So you're seeing the influences of Warner Brothers to brighten this up, and I think that's good or bad. Yeah, we're losing some of that darker tone to the episodes that we had in the earlier ones, but it does open up for some more lighthearted, lighter content episodes. Like this one, it is kind of a centralized story. You can only do that with a bit of a lighter tone, whereas the darker tone episodes, the city was being threatened, there was terrorists, there was monsters terrorizing the city. There's those kind of elements.
Sunshine, clean air. I hate it.
And again, with the lighter tone, you get to see Batman getting a little bit creative, how he spoils Hugo Strange's intent of selling off this. He could have easily, even as Bruce Wayne, when Hugo and his henchmen came in there to nab him in the lab, he could have easily taken them, beat him up, stole the tape, destroyed it, and been done with it. He allows himself to get captured and then gets a little bit creative with imagining an alternate story of Hugo Strange just devising this plan to take advantage of the villains.
It's a perfect plan. With this machine, I can imagine Batman to be anyone I choose. And these fools will pay a fortune for it.
So that he turns the villains against him.
Fellow miscreants, we've been had. I'm gonna use your head for a bowling ball, Strange. Get him!
And then at the end, we see why we had Dick Grayson in the episode, and that was to pose as Bruce Wayne to solidify the story that Batman and Bruce Wayne are two separate people. And again, this is a trope that's used pretty regularly. And I remember in the 60s show, we saw Alfred playing Batman at one point. But I don't know why didn't they have Dick Grayson play Batman? Which would have been great foreshadowing for Nightfall when he eventually takes over as Batman. But anyway, you could tell that they could have just as easily done that, and with Alfred as Bruce Wayne or Batman, whichever, to be able to sell that story. But again, I know that Warner Brothers was pushing to have more Dick Grayson, more Robin, so they sort of inserted him in this episode. But we didn't need him, but it was a nice addition.
I wish you weren't so tall, though. Walking in these leg extension braces is a pain.
So when it came time to rank this episode, I do tend to favor some of the darker episodes in my list, but there were some clever elements to this. Again, it's kind of a staple story that they were needing to do at some point in the animated series, and it may not be the only time that they've done this sort of Batman's secret identity being threatened in this episode. So it kind of fell in the middle ground of my list at the number 16 slot, just below Cape and Cowl Conspiracy, although that's kind of similar, that he does his identities being threatened, but not really, because he was the guy. That's not what this episode. Watch that one if you want to learn about that. But what I liked more about that episode was the devices that he was using, the cleverness that he was using to try to get Batman's cape and cowl. Whereas this one, right up at the beginning, he's able to get the secret, and now it's just how is Batman going to prevent that from getting out. So it falls at the number 16 slot of my favorite episodes of Batman the Animated Series so far.
Come on, Hugo. Time to fly the unfriendly skies.
And because this is one of the tropes that's used a lot in superheroes in general, anybody with a secret identity, what are some of your favorite storylines that use Batman being threatened to have his secret identity as Bruce Wayne exposed? Is this one of your favorite storylines that use that trope, or is there another story, whether it be in the comics or in later on in the animated series, or open range of any of the Batman materials? What's your favorite storyline that uses that trope?
Believe it or not, this is working out just as I planned.
We have another episode coming to you tomorrow. Like I said, they're starting to increase the frequency of these episodes as we get into November. And so we're going to be continuing on tomorrow with Tyger.
Good day to you, Batman.
As always, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here and you enjoyed this episode and want to see more of them, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And whoever you are, if you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button. It helps me out tremendously. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Andy Knode, and I will see you tomorrow.